Join me as I dive into a wild thought experiment. What if Australia was never discovered by the British? Can I imagine an entirely different history for this land down under? British colonization has had a profound impact on the history of Australia, shaping the country's identity, culture, and global relationships. The arrival of the British in 1788 marked the beginning of a new era for the indigenous populations, and it's hard to imagine an Australia without the influences of British culture, language, and institutions. But what if the British had never set foot on Australian soil? How would this have altered the course of history, not just for Australia, but for the world at large? The implications of a British-free Australia are far-reaching and multifaceted. In a world where Australia was never discovered by the British, the global dynamics of the past 2 centuries would likely have been significantly different. The absence of a British Australia would have created a power vacuum in the Asia-Pacific region, potentially leading to a more prominent role for other colonial powers like France, the Netherlands, or even the United States. Such a scenario raises intriguing questions about the potential alternative paths that Australian history might have taken. Would the country have become a French or Dutch colony, with the accompanying cultural and linguistic influences? Without the British, Australia's development would have likely been shaped by alternative economic and cultural forces. The country's natural resources might have been exploited by other colonial powers, leading to different patterns of trade and industrialization. In the absence of British colonization, the very fabric of Australian society would have been altered. The cultural exchange between European settlers and indigenous Australians would have been non-existent, or would have taken a radically different form. In this alternative scenario, the Pacific region would have looked very different, with the absence of British influence potentially leading to a more fragmented or decentralized system of governance. The formation of regional alliances and trade networks would have been shaped by alternative colonial powers or indigenous interests. Let's explore one possible turning point in this alternative history. Imagine a scenario where the Dutch, who had already established trade and settlement networks in the Indonesian archipelago, had turned their attention to Australia. In this scenario, Australia would have become a crucial link in the Dutch Empire, a hub for trade and commerce that connected the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. The country's development would have been shaped by Dutch economic and cultural influences, leading to a distinctly different cultural and linguistic heritage. Alternatively, the French might have taken an interest in Australia, establishing a series of settlements and trading posts that stretched from the coast to the interior. This would have led to a French-speaking Australia with a cultural and linguistic heritage shaped by the traditions and customs of metropolitan France. In both scenarios, the course of Australian history would have been altered, leading to a distinctly different country, with alternative cultural, economic, and political institutions. The world would have been a different place, with the absence of British Australia creating a power vacuum that would have been filled by alternative colonial powers or indigenous interests. So what would have happened if Australia was never discovered by the British? The possibilities are endless, and it's fascinating to consider the different paths that Australian history might have taken. Without the British, the country would have been shaped by alternative cultural, economic, and political forces, leading to a distinctly different Australia and a radically different world. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think would have happened if Australia was never discovered by the British? Share your thoughts, and be sure to check out some of our other videos on alternative history scenarios. For more content like this, subscribe to the What the Happened YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay informed and stay curious.